Hello everyone, my name is Tolulokpaye, Creative Director of Caramel's Fashion Hub and Millinery. You're welcome to today's tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful turban right here. And for this one I used the metallic fabric. It has 3 bows, but for this tutorial I'm going to be using a scuba fabric. You can use scuba, you can use poly, you can even use satin doll face, just that you need to pad it if it's a satin doll face. But I'm going to be using scuba for this particular tutorial. So I already cut out my fabrics. You don't need up to 1 yard for this tutorial. I have less than a yard before I cut out my fabric. So that's 16 inches for the depth of my turban. It depends on how full you want your cap to be at the back if you have a lot of hair. So I'm using 16 inches by 26 inches for the head circumference because I want the body of my turban to be bigger than the band. So 16 inches for the depth of my turban by 26 inches. Now for my band, I have my head circumference by 4 inches. The width is 4 inches and my head circumference is 23 inches. So I'm just going to fold into 2, and normally we'll place our band on the right side of our fabric. But because this band actually is smaller than the turban, than the head circumference of the turban itself, I'm going to first of all fold my turban into 2, and then I'm going to notch to mark the midpoint. Alright, so I'm just going to notch my band too. That will help me align my turban and my the body of my turban and the band together. Remember that the band is smaller than the cap, than the body of the cap, so I have to notch as well so that I can easily place it middle to middle and get it accurately. So as you can see, I'm just going to place that on the right side of my turban. I believe you're already familiar with this if you're already into turban making. So I'm just going to place it like that on the right side, and then I'm going to sew by 1/4 inch just to attach my band to my cap. Now I have my fabric for my bows. Now the tip is you can use any measurement, but you have to ensure that whatever you use for the first measurement, you add 4 inches to the length. For instance, I'm using 12 inches by 7 inches. If I want it to be bigger, you can increase it. So the first one is 12 inches length by 7 inches width. Now for the second one, that's the first one, 12 inches by 7 inches width. Now for the second one, I'm going to add 4 inches to the 12 inches, which makes it 16 inches by 7 inches width. Now for the third one, I'm going to add another 4 inches, which makes it 20 inches by 7 inches width. So I'm just going to fold each one into 2 equal halves with the right side facing each other, and I'm going to sew it down like that. You can make your bow more than 3. You can make your bow bigger or smaller. Now I have this small strip, 4 inches by 10 inches. I'm going to be using it to form my bow in front. 4 inches by 12 inches, sorry, by 10 inches. Then I'm going to fold into 2 with the right side facing each other, and I'm going to sew it down. Alright guys, so I'm back. I've sewn the bows, the fabric for the bows, as you can see, and I've turned them inside out. If you have access to power supply, you can iron, because scuba is quite puffy. You can iron so that it flattens it a bit if you don't want it to be too puffy. Next, you fold into 2 equal parts with the sewn part facing you and just stitch it like that. You do the same thing to the other 2 pieces of fabric, or as many bows as you are doing. Make sure that the sewn part is facing you like that, and then you sew it like that. Now back to my turban. I have already I've sewn the band, and I'm going to fold my turban into 2 like that, and I'm going to sew from the band straight down. Remember that the body of the cap is bigger. Just watch the way I'm illustrating. I'm going to sew it in that manner, straight down, make a curve there, and bring it all the way to the top. Now before I finish up at that point, I'll mark out 1 inch for passing the loop that I'm going to use to cross my bow in front. So just take your chalk and mark 1 inch out, and then go and sew the rest of the turban. Okay, can you see now? I've sewn it. That's the sewn part. I just turn it inside. Just turn it inside like that, and ensure that the stitched part is in the middle. And you're going to begin to place them from the smallest to the rather from the biggest to the smallest. The smallest will be on top, while the biggest one will be under. Ensure that it is in the middle. Ensure that it's in the middle. If you have to measure, please measure. Just ensure that it's in the middle. So next, I'm going to just tie or tack my bow. You can either tack it or tie or even glue it together. Just hold it in place. So now back to the turban. I'm going to turn my turban inside out like that, and I'm going to be passing the loop inside the turban, inside the 1-inch hole I left earlier for passing my loop. So I'm going to pass it in and use it to gather my turban in front. Can you see the sewn part is facing me? Because I want to have a neat finishing for my turban. So the sewn part is facing me, and I'm going to hold it like that. The right sides will now be facing each other, and the sewn part will be facing me. Now, before you sew it down, please ensure that you first of all pass your bow in to fit in, and you are sure that the space you have will fit in before you sew down your loop. So I'm going to tie mine now, and I will check it before I sew it down. So I've tied mine. You can tie in the middle, you can tack, you can glue, you can do anything. Just ensure that they are staying together. Can you see that? So I'm going to pass my bows inside first and confirm that it actually fits into the loop before I sew it down. And if you want, you can decide to make yours you can decide to make your loop very tight, but I prefer to make my loop a bit loose. I don't like it when it's too tight because it makes the turban stick in the middle of the head instead of relaxing at the back. So I'll rather leave space. Then I'll just sew the loop down like that, either with my needle and thread or my sewing machine. Alright guys, can you see? I've sewn it down. Can you see that? I'm just going to trim off the excess. I'm going to trim off the excess, and I'm going to just turn it back so that the sewn part will be inside and the right side facing me. Then I'm going to roll it under. Don't leave that sewn part in front. Just roll it to go under. Now, if you have any excess, any space at that point, you can just tack it together, but ensure that it's in the middle first. You can tack it together so that the loop won't be moving around if you want it to be in one place. Now all that's left is for us to do our running stitches. Please kindly follow me on my social media handles as seen on the screen. My Facebook and Instagram, as well as my YouTube. I'll be so grateful to have you follow me. Please also join our Facebook group. There you get to relate with other people who are into millinery, as well as ask questions. So I just turn my turban inside, and then I'm just going to do a running stitch at the back of the turban, just from the top there, and stop right above the band. You don't need to do your running stitch up to the band. Just leave your band out of it. So just do your running stitch with your matching color of thread and needle. I'd love to see your tutorials. Please feel free to ask questions if you have any. I'd love to see you practice yours. So just do your running stitch. I'm still going to remove this thread because I'm going to weave the insides first before I do my running stitch. But if you're not weaving yours, please ensure that you do your running stitch like 3 times. Now this is the finished work of the turban. Can you see that? That's the finished work of the multiple bows turban. So all you need to do, you can decide to embellish. So that's all about this turban. Thank you for watching, and bye.